Bill introductions this morning? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the major items on today's agenda, and that would be budget report outs. And so first we'd have Chair Mosier with the Kansas Department of Commerce. Chair Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, Kansas Department of Commerce. So the core budget for commerce comes from the EDIF fund. And if you look at page 8 on your agency request, that shows the fund balances. So that's just for your reference. The Department of Commerce is a cabinet-level agency with the mission to empower businesses and communities using strategic resources to help realize prosperity in Kansas. It's the lead agency for economic development all across the state, promoting business, industry, trade, workforce, all of those things. You can read the 6 programs that are within the agency and a little bit about what they do. And so let's go ahead to 2026. The agency requests a revised estimate of $226.6 million, including $51.2 million SGF and 317 FTEs. This represents a decrease of $11.7 million or 4.9% below the amount approved by the 2025 legislature. So you can see their asks for reappropriations, $34 million for an MRO of airplanes, home-based child care providers, Advantage Kansas, and then a lump sum for all the EDIF reappropriations. And then their list of deletions and additions. So the Special Committee on State Budget deleted all of their reappropriations, the airplanes, the child care, the Advantage Kansas, and all of the EDIF. The House Committee on Ag and Natural Resources budget concurred with the Special Committee's recommendations with the following adjustments. So we added back the $34 million SGF for the MRO of airplanes in this fiscal year. $33 million of this goes to Salina and $1 million going to Topeka. The agency has assured me that contracts are signed and this money will be let before the end of the year. We also added 500,000 SGF back to the home care-based child care providers. The committee put out an RFP and they say a contract is signed, so that that will also be let. And we added 50,000, a straight 50,000 of SGF to restore the appropriations for Advantage Kansas. I believe they were asking for 50,277 or something like that, and we just made it an even 50,000. Then the committee also had a long discussion about travel and tourism and the reappropriation funds that they had asked for in that regard, and with discussion about this year's the 250th anniversary of our country and World Cup coming in June and the 100th anniversary of Route 66, the committee voted to add back the reappropriated amount for travel and tourism, which was $145,744. And then the rest of their reappropriations we lapsed. And so the number 5 and number 6 are language that the committee added that we will delete the reappropriation authority for the 35.4 million and the it should say 145,744, not 178. That's a typo. We're deleting reappropriation authority for that beyond 2026. So you have to spend it, they have to spend it before the end of the year, or it will lapse back to the state general fund. And we also added language like the Senate did to lapse funding for any FTE position paid from EDIF. Most of the salaries for Commerce are paid out of EDIF and not SGF. And so we're going to make that language the same as what it is currently for SGF vacancies. So we're going to add language to lapse funding for any FTE position paid from the EDIF that has been vacant for a part or the entire fiscal year for 2026. And with that, I will stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Chair Mosier. Are there any questions in regards to fiscal year 2026? Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a amendment to the Commerce budget. I move in addition to the other purposes for which expenditures may be made above agency from the monies appropriated from the state general fund or any other special revenue funds for fiscal year 2027. Oh, sorry, but it said based on since it was based on 26, I thought I should do it now. I'll do it in 27. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Representative Wassinger. Any other questions for fiscal year 2026? All right, seeing none, Chair Mosier, 2027.
Okay, if you look on the summary of legislative recommendations on page 6 of your budget committee report, I'd like to draw your attention to the total amount over here. The agency request was 141 million and change, and after looking at the budget and much discussion, the House committee added back $3.176 million, and I will explain why we did what we did and the rationale for doing it. So the expenditures that were in fiscal year 2026 that are not included in the agency allocation for 2027 are described on page 12 of your agency request, if you care to look at those monies that went out. So for 2027, the agency requested $141.4 million, including $476,204 of SGF in expenditures and the additional 317 FTE positions. This is 30% below the amount approved by the 2025 legislature. So this agency is making an earnest effort to cut unnecessary spending. And I might point out that even with our addition of the $3 million, they're still $58.2 million below the amount approved by the legislature. So the 30% cut would go to still 28.7% that they're reducing their budget. Okay. So the Special Committee on State Budget deleted the grant distribution money and the salary and wages and the operating expenditures money. And so the House Committee concurs with Special Committee's recommendation for fiscal year 2027 with the following adjustments. The first, I'm comparing 2 pages here. So the first one that we did, Level Up Kansas asked for $2 million. The committee approved $1 million to restore funding for Level Up Kansas. That is a 2027 enhancement. We added $1 million from, and that was from SGF. We added $1 million from EDIF for the towns grant, another enhancement They were asking, the town's grant was asking for $2.68 million. And so the committee voted to appropriate $1 million to them for that. The Creative Arts Commission is EDIF dollars, and that's another enhancement. They requested $1 million, and we put in $750,000 for that portion. And then number 4, another enhancement, we put in $750,000 for public broadcasting. They were asking for $500,000. In committee, the maker of that motion stated that he felt public broadcasting and the arts were kind of the same, and so that's why we allocated the same amount of funds for those 2 enhancement requests. So then after that, we took a look at the base budget of the Commerce Committee, and we made the following changes. If you look at Build Up Kansas, they were requesting $2.6 million. We lowered that to $1.8 million. That's number 8 on your list. If you look at the workforce reemployment, that is number 7 on your list. They were asking for $99,000, and we rounded it up to $100,000. Number 6 on the list, and these are all EDIF funds. The rural remote workplaces, they had no ask at all. We put in $250,000 to continue the work in the rural remote workplaces that are established across the state of Kansas. And then if you look down at your HEAL grants, the regular HEAL grant, we left at $1.5 million. And then they had no request for emergency HEAL funds. However, the committee felt like in the case of an emergency, it would be good for them to have a little money in that kitty, and so we gave them $250,000 for that. So that is how we changed the budget, and we also added language to lapse the funding again for any FTE position paid from the EDIF that has been vacant for at least 180 days or an entire fiscal year. This will result in the elimination of 2 FTE positions for Commerce. And so I don't know if I need to move that officially to remove 2 positions or where we need to go from there. But I believe that concludes my presentation on 2027.
All right, thank you, Chair
2027.
Mosier. So the first question I have is, when you look at the governor's recommendation, was there any discussion in regards to the town's grant? Why the governor wanted to add $2.7 million to that when we were only funding that previously at, like, I think it was $670,000?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There really was no discussion. We just felt like going from 600,000 to 2.6 million was a bit much.
I would agree.
And
That's
so
why I was wondering if there's any
that's
rationale behind that.
I never heard a rationale for it, but that's why we ended up on the 1.8 million.
And then with all the adjustments that was made in regards to the Economic Development Initiatives Fund, do you have an ending balance of what that fund will stand?
Where's that report, Jeffrey? You just gave it to me.
I just want to make sure that we're still positive in that fund, because otherwise, as statute states, we have to backfill that with state general fund if it goes negative.
Okay, the subtotal for commerce was 32 million, and then the final ending balance is $1,557,847. So we're
Right.
still
Still
positive.
positive. All right. Representative Wassinger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's kind of like Groundhog Day. You get it all again. I have a proposed amendment. In addition to the purposes for the expenditures, pardon me? I know, I'm sorry. It's not Groundhog Day, I do know that. What this amendment does, before I read it, because I think you just need to listen for it, it's just asking for some transparency for 1 year for all the star bond districts and the number and effect of existing businesses that moved into those star bond districts and the amount of sales tax accrued from those existing businesses cumulatively moving into the districts and the projected deficit to sales collections from businesses moving out of the district. And it should be reported to the House Committee on Appropriations and Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development and Senate Committees on Ways and Means and Commerce on or before June 30th, 2027. The reason why is these star bond districts expand, and we were trying to figure out how much tax revenue that we're losing from the expansion of all these star bond districts. It's just for a year, just to find out what we're losing from that and how much we might be losing and see what's going on.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion, second by Representative Estes. Discussion on the motion. Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the base, I believe, is, like Representative Wassinger said, to provide a little more transparency. If a restaurant, say, would physically move from outside of, currently they're outside the star bond district, so those tax dollars are coming into the state. If it would move into the star bond district, those tax revenues do not go to the state, they go to pay off the bonds. And so asking for a report basically on any action in that regard for this year.
Representative Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there currently a policy against cannibalizing in the star bond legislation?
Representative Wassinger.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Representative Rajas.
I guess it is Groundhog Day because it sounds like a conversation we had yesterday. Why have we been doing this forever for star bonds? I mean, I guess and plus I don't understand what revenue we're losing. If it's not there, how are you losing it? I would assume a star bond and businesses, that's the whole point, is to have that entertainment district, or maybe we've changed that whole idea too. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm trying to. Do we have to do this, and it's just a proviso for a year? What we're trying to find, how do we know if we're losing revenue or not? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, and I would probably say, Representative Wassinger, that's the point of the motion.
Yes.
Is to monitor whether or not we create a new star bond district, and then let's say a restaurant moves from one area into the star bond district, and that way the state would be losing sales tax revenue because they'd be moving into a district where that sales tax revenue would be paying off the bond, whereas if they hadn't moved, it would be generated and the sales tax revenue would be going to the state. So there is a potential of a loss of revenue.
Okay. I mean,
Is that right?
Yes, currently, we
Right.
don't have any idea how much of this is happening, and it's just to be able to see what's going on. And it's only for a year.
Representative Rogers?
okay. I mean, I don't know what, a year is not a trend. So that's my only concern too. If we're going to truly find a trend, what? Because I mean, we have COVID. You could have a disaster. You could have the Rams moving to, back to Missouri. I don't know. It just seems to me while I understand the concept of this, there could be a lot of different factors. It could rain, it could be dry. I mean, it could, I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're trying to, are we trying to play gotcha with just a year? Because I have a real concern. That the year's not going to give us, really or not. If it's a snapshot, then what happens afterwards? I mean, do we? I guess maybe, Mr. Chairman, that's probably my question. What happens with this data? Do we penalize the star bond? I guess I'm trying to, what's the outcome? Maybe that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Representative Walsinger.
The outcome is the transparency to see if there is migration into the Star Bond District, to see if we have lost a lot of revenue. It's just an idea of how we can make sure we know what's going on, and we can say, well, when they do the budgets for all of these, they don't add things like that. We're hoping that we get that information and see there's a possible loss of revenue anywhere from, $1,000 to, $100,000.
Representative Rogers.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but is there a way moving forward with star bonds so we can put this language in then?
Let me turn it over to Chair Tarwater.
Okay.
He's next on the queue.
Okay, well, sorry, but that.
And
that
possibly,
might
I don't know
answer.
what his comments are going to
Okay,
be.
thank you.
But perhaps this could be language that could be
Okay.
extenuated into the current statute regarding star bonds.
Yes, thank you.
Chair Tarwater.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You took the words right out of my mouth. So I think that, there's been a lot of speculation on this over the years, and we've had meetings on it, actually. And so I think it is a good idea we do finally look at it. But there's also other things that you want to look at because there are businesses that also leave the Star Bond District or go out of business. And the Star Bond District actually has to make up that sales tax before we can capture the increment. So there's a lot more to look at than just this, and we will put this in the Star Bond bill, but we'll also look at it overarching. So, and I would ask maybe the chair to maybe expand this a little bit to also consider businesses that do leave the Star Bond District that have to be made up for. And that's how we'll word it in the Star Bond bill. So thank you.
I think Jill is saying it's
It does,
kind of included.
it is included.
It is included in the motion.
Yes.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That makes more sense. I think a total overall picture rather than, it sounded to me like we were trying to find something. And so with this, with both in and out, because businesses do go in and out of business, and so.
Well, and obviously, whatever the fate of this motion would be, if Chair Tarwater has something in that, as far as bill format, it would just be redundant to have it in the budget, and we can have it negated
It's fine.
aftermath. All right.
Thank you.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Representative Tarwater answered the question that I wanted to know, because business do come in and out. But my other question is, they also, if I understand correctly, have to sign an agreement when they agree to star bonds. And in some instances, when they sign that agreement, I was told it is implied that should you leave, these are your obligations. Am I correct in that respect?
Chair Tarwater.
Thank you for the question. And Mr. Chairman, I believe this has to do with the surrounding businesses around the attraction. They don't sign any kind of an agreement. They're just a beneficiary of having the attraction and bringing the tourism in.
But the ones that were involved, they do along those lines. And, because
Right.
like if you look at Legends, they paid off early. So they didn't lose any money. They actually gained money. So, and I don't know if this is because of the Chiefs move or because we're using more star bonds or whatever. But the more you talk about it, more it sounds okay, because initially I could not understand. This was the third one we've had yesterday and today, though different. But the more you explain it, it's reasonable. But And I guess you can target star bonds because we're using them more often now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a quick example, a real-time example. In Wichita, we had a Star Bonds district that had a Bed Bath & Beyond, and that particular store moved to another Star Bonds district. You cannot do that anymore, so we've made improvements with the Star Bond district. But this is actually just saying if any entity was outside the Star Bond and that we were collecting sales tax on it and property tax and all those good things, and then they said, you know what, I like this new location better. We just want to know how much we would have lost. So that's the point.
Representative Estes.
Chairman Tarwater said what I said, but if you're making changes to your star bond, I think on all the incentives, the payback schedule is never public, and there's a big cloud over whether or not they're actually on schedule. So that's my wish list item for you. Thank you.
Representative Getz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question around the staffing of this. I mean, with their budget going down 30%, but I leaned over and asked Chair Mosier, and she said she's had a conversation with the agency and that there wasn't going to be any extra. I mean, it is an expanded investigation, so it made me think, is that going to take some more staff or some more time or another portion of an FTE? But she said it's going to be within cost, so I just wanted everybody to have that information as well.
And the one thing that I would probably say is I think there's been more of a spotlight on star bonds ever since December 22nd, when we had the announcement that the Chiefs were going to be moving from Missouri into Kansas. And I will say that we probably do need to have more monitoring and more reporting in regards to star bond districts. And that is the reason because I think a lot of people don't understand how star bond districts work. And so we do need to have more reporting from the Department of Commerce in regards to the star bond districts and how actually the intricate details of a star bond district and how that actually impacts the state of Kansas, because we could talk about, you know, the Speedway and the Legends, and those were the primary reason why we had star bonds. I think the Speedway was one of the first ones to be utilizing star bonds, and look how you took a area of the state of Kansas or in Wyandotte County that was completely underutilized and developed what is now the #1 tourist destination in the Kansas City metropolitan area over the course of 20 years. And that's what the intent of the Star Bond District is supposed to be. Like I mentioned, I don't think many realize how many Star Bonds have been utilized in the state of Kansas. It just got greater exposure when we had the announcement that the Chiefs are moving to Kansas. Any further questions for the maker of the motion? Chair Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just, if this is going to go into the star bond wording, language, however, just wondering if the maker of the motion would accept a substitute motion that not to put it specifically here in this commerce budget, but to move the language to the star bond language?
Probably the appropriate measure to move forward would be accept the language, but if it's okay with the maker of the motion, also the second, is to say if subsequent language is actually passed by the 2026 legislature, then this language is negated.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that
So
what you're?
I'll withdraw my substitute motion and agree with that.
Right. And that's okay with the second?
Yes.
Right. All right. Any further discussion in regards to the motion? Seeing none, Chair Wassinger, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close.
All right. Committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion passes. We're back on the budget for the Department of Commerce for 2027. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So going to the EDIF list, a couple things. Number one, can we get a copy of our EDIF profile sent to all of us? And number two, can you give us the total amount of appropriations for items 1 through 8, not just the enhancements?
Chair Mosier. We can email a copy to all the members.
Yes. Dylan will get those sent out to everyone. And you want a total of 1 through 8, 1 through 7 on the
Yeah, I wanted the
Vice
total
Chair
list. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair. So I wanted the total spent, including the enhancement.
Okay,
Chair
so
Mosier?
SGF is a flat $1 million. And then we'd have 2.5, 3, 3,100,000, 4 million, 4.9 million. Okay. Okay, so you'll get it, and it'll be there.
But you said the net positive is over $1 million in EDIF.
Yes,
Yeah.
1.55 and change.
And there's about $43 million that's deposited from the lottery sales to EDIF? 42, 43 million?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I kind of the same. I was wanting to know. I think that's what the vice chair was asking. So like on the Creative Arts Commission, how much is in their budget without the 750,000?
Their base budget for that is $1 million.
Okay. And then the public broadcasting is 500, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And then emergency HEAL grants.
They had.
That was
they-
zeroed out. I'm sorry, Chair Mosier, but that was zeroed out. and
Thank
we
you,
put-
Mr. Chair.
They're putting 250,000 in.
Okay. Rural remote workplaces.
That was $1 million and reduced to 250,000.
They actually did not have a request for that.
So that's zero.
Yes,
Reemployment program, it's only 1,000, but
that was, thank you, Mr. Chair. That was 99,000. We rounded up to give them 100,000 to work with.
okay. So, can you give me a little bit more on what is the HEAL grants?
Chair Mosier?
Bill grants, thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are used in rural communities. There's one going on in my county right now where businesses apply for grants to update the facade of your building or update the interior, and it's mainly for small businesses that want to upgrade their facilities and, make things more attractive in their communities.
And is there a difference between HEAL grants and emergency HEAL grants?
Chair Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The word emergency is the difference. If something were to happen into a city, a tornado came through and tore out a few stores on Main Street, that money could be applied for and received to do reconstructive work.
Okay, so the HEAL grants themselves, there's not going to be any money for actually them going and doing grants.
Chair Mosier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there will be, the regular HEAL grants through the Office of Rural Prosperity is budgeted at 1.5 million.
Okay.
Representative Hoffman?
So this would be above that 1.5 million and could only be used in emergencies.
Chair Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is probably true. However, if the HEAL grant money runs out, then I believe that Commerce would have the ability to dip into the $250,000 to use.
And how,
Representative Hoffman?
thank you, Mr. Chairman, sorry. How much are the grants normally?
Chair Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to have you repeat that, Representative
how much
Hoffman,
are
because
they
I was,
normally?
That I do not know, and I can get that information.
All right.
Representative Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The rural remote workplaces.
Reed, we're having a back feed.
The rural remote workplaces.
Thank
Chair
you.
Mosier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before I answer that one, I would like to go back to the emergency heal. And Dylan shared with me that those are businesses that are in danger of, their building not being safe and being condemned. And so saving those businesses.
Representative Hoffman?
Yeah,
The rural remote, this would be looking at existing remote workplaces across Kansas and continuing to help people that do work remote, to continue that funding
And
in
I
those
would-
offices.
I would probably extenuate on that, and that was something that I added last year, because after I went to a budget meeting with NCSL, I found out that there were a lot of states that were putting money into remote rural workplaces. Now, the intent was that if you created a workplace for remote workers where people would move from a metropolitan area into a rural area of the state, and they wanted to have a more work-like setting to go and work at, instead of being in their home 5 days a week, they could actually go to these places, and you partner with private businesses and sustain these workplaces. There has been utilization of this in the state of Kansas in the last year. We went from $1 million, and then the Department of Commerce actually zeroed it out, and so did the governor. But we have utilized it. Maybe not to the extent of $1 million, and that's why I believe the committee did $250,000. But the money has been utilized in the last year.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not going to make a motion or anything. All these you guys are going to get to conference on them anyway because the Senate didn't put them in. So I was just trying to decide whether or not I was wanting to make a motion to zero them out, but I'll just let it slide and let you guys work on it in conference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Representative Hoffman. You've been there, done that. Representative Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion that, I guess to kind of set it up, a couple years ago, there was a proviso inserted into the budget bill that took 2% of tax dollars up to $20 million to pay off debt services for the impact program and to pay for the program administration of that. But those debt services have all been paid off. And this was supposed to be for fiscal year 25, 26, and 27. And because those debt services have all been paid off, I would like to make the motion that we take the $20 million and revert back to SGF.
All right, committee, heard the motion. Is there a second on the motion? Second by Representative Williams. Discussion on the motion. Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And could we have discussion on how those monies, those remaining monies are being used now?
Representative Steele.
Mr. Chair, Representative, the funds right now is just the rest of that 2% that wasn't being used to pay off the debt services or the program administration was just going back into the job creation program. And so they were just sitting there for people to apply to assist with that.
Representative Amix.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, are there commitments to that $20 million then now?
Representative Steele.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, for 2026 there is, so this would just be for year 2027.
Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm fine.
Any further discussion on the motion? Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dylan, can you tell us how much is already pledged, or I want to make sure we're not going to get sued.
Dylan.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have current pledges for FY 2027. The transparency database has distributions for FY 2025 actuals and commitments that are still like outstanding. But I don't think those commitments exceed the 20 million or so that would have been transferred in 26. We'd have to get from Commerce if in FY 26 they have made additional commitments beyond that were outstanding from FY 2025. I can pull that number here pretty quick for you if you like.
Chairman Tarwater?
Thank you. Just want to make sure we have the right information so that we're not taking too much.
And I would say from the maker of the motion, Representative Steele, this is pretty new, not existing, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we should be covered. Operative words, should be. Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And along the same lines as Chairman Tarwater was asking is that I just hate to see us get in a situation where we have made, decisions on how this money is, is going somewhere for job creation. And, we get ourselves in a whole lot of trouble.
Well, and that's why I made the statement before that this would be just for new, not existing, but I think Dylan has a few comments on that.
Thank you. So according to the Department of Commerce's transparency database, of the amount remaining is $12.7 million that flowed from FY 25 into FY 2026. So as long as there's not commitments that exceed $8 million, that would carry forward into FY 27. And I would have to touch base with the Department of Commerce on that.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. No. All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Representative Turk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need more information on what we use this fund for. Is this, you said it's just for debt service, but isn't this also used for deal closings, like down payments, et cetera? Isn't this something that is used for future commerce down payments? I mean, isn't this what the same funding, is this the line item you're talking about?
Representative Steele.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, so the actual impact fund is that, but a few years ago, they took 2% of that to fund these three special things: the debt services, the program administration, and then threw the rest of it back into the job creation. And there was a grant that jobs could apply for. So it's just been sitting there and applied for things, but the rest of the funding is still in the impact.
Representative Turk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only hesitancy with this is that we have so many big deals pending. I don't have an intimate knowledge of how this fund is used or is being utilized now. I just need more information.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you. How long has that, I'm sorry, how long, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How long has that money been sitting there? I mean, are we not advertising that we can have it, or we just don't have any more avenues and we don't have a need for it, not just because we want to take it?
Representative Steele.
So, Mr. Chairman, Representative, I believe that this was done in 2021 for fiscal year 25, 26, and 27.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you. So if it was for 27 and it's included, why do we have to move the money now when people can still apply for it?
Representative Steele.
It's up to 20 million for each fiscal year, and for 25, the program for fiscal year, they expended $20 million of that, is my understanding. I just fully believe that Commerce has funding in other avenues that they can do for these, and that this is hard-earned taxpayer dollars that we could put back into SGF.
Representative Ballard.
I have a little concern in that area, because when it's taxpayers' money, yes, I agree with that. But to eliminate that fund, which you're taking that money, part of that goes into economic development. there's other areas that we're using that money for around the state. And it would seem to me that Commerce can make better use of it than for us to put the 20 million in our budget right now so we can get closer to the 200 million that we want to cut. That's what my concern is. We're just looking for areas to cut and not for areas that could be viable to geographical areas all around the state. I'm trying to protect them so that they have their money so that they can develop further and not that we sweep it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion on the motion? Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a, to put it back in SGF, is there another idea, is there looking for a reappropriation, or, because if that money, you know, if it's already targeted now, if it goes back in, 20 million that somebody could grab for something, or is it, I mean, I guess where, I mean, I understand, I appreciate your description of where it all goes, but I think this is like representative from Johnson County. I mean, some of these monies are used for, you know, different situations to close these deals. And so I don't know, but so I'm a little concerned, but also, is there a way we can do what the language we put in with, you know, earlier today, you know, for this program as well, if it's used, where's it going? There's so many of these programs, not only common, but all, you know, if we're going to get down to it, maybe that should be a global amendment to everything. You know, every dollar is, I don't know. I mean, is that the, I mean, I guess what's the crux behind it? I mean, I agree with you for taxpayer money to be careful, but we also know in this budgetary process that what one person thinks is a vital program, the other person thinks is waste, fraud, and abuse. And so, which is fine, that's why we're here to have these discussions, but I'm also trying to figure out the motivation for this. Is it to find the savings, which that's no problem, or what, you know, what was exactly driving it, Mr. Chairman?
Representative Steele, I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Tarwater. I think he has an answer to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry I don't have answers to all these questions.
I thought you did.
Well, I could pretend. I mean, I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, so. I would say that, I mean, the Department of Commerce says this is a critical fund for them. I believe the dollars go into the Job Creation Fund, which there's been a lot of questions about in the past on how they use it. I would say that would it be possible to revisit this when we put the budget back together? So that we can get more information from the Department of Commerce between now and then to make sure we're doing this correctly.
That'll be up to the maker of the motion. Representative Steele.
I'm fine with needing to gather further information. The thing that I would like to note is I find it really interesting that it's my understanding that this was done a few years ago in a late night budget situation, and if the point of it was to pay off debt services that are already paid off, and we're just continuing to put money into a fund for people to apply for grants out of for development of potential jobs, but we have no reporting, we have no outcomes. Did that work? Did it not work? And when we're looking at trying to cut and save money, I feel like that $20 million to go back to SGF would be a decent idea.
Well, what I would say is whatever the fate of the motion is, if it happens to get onto the budget, of course, right now the plan is to work on the budget because we had our agenda planning meeting yesterday, and that's next Wednesday and Thursday. And so we could gather more information, Chairman Tarwater, and then have a discussion when we actually rework the budget, because this is not the finality of the budget at all. We will actually revisit everything when we actually try to put the budget back together. Chair Tarwater?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I can't really argue with anything you said there. I just want to make sure that we've got all the information and that sometimes when we read things, we read them differently than what they are. And sometimes we draw conclusions that may or may not be true, as we've seen as we work through some things that we've done in the past. I just want to make sure we're doing it right. And if you want to put it on and then we'll discuss it and take it off, that's fine too. But we do need to revisit to make sure we have the right information.
Chair Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I would be happy to work with Chair Tarwater and Commerce to meet to discuss and get more information on this for next week.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to agree that there are no metrics for this. If you actually go on to the website, you're going to see, and I won't say the company aloud, one company in 2025 received $25 million. There also was $6 million that went to Wichita State, $250,000 that went to Wichita State. Kansas State University Foundation, $500,000. I think that this is money that the governor, as I understand it, has the ability to award, but we don't know for what reason. There are no metrics for it, and every other incentive we have, there are metrics. You have to create so many jobs, and it is a job creation fund, and there are net jobs and listed, but I still think that that's not enough metric and not enough transparency, so I actually support the motion.
Any further discussion on the motion? Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking down through all the different divisions of commerce, there are several that address job creation, workforce creation, those kinds of things. So I would be very interested in getting the details on this before we take action on it. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, Representative Turk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm sitting here and I'm sleuthing and gathering information, and what I'm seeing is that we all need information. And what I understand that there is a report out there that exists. So what I want to do is I want to make a substitute motion for that immediate report to get to this committee so that we can have a deeper discussion about it before the end of our report outs.
All right, committee, you've heard the substitute motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Ballard. Discussion on the substitute motion. All right, seeing none. Representative Turk, you may close on the substitute motion.
I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the substitute motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. We are back on the budget for the Department of Commerce. Any further discussion on the Department of Commerce? Seeing none, Chair Mosier, you may make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I close, I'd like to just take a minute to thank all of my committee members, two of which are sitting in this room, the KLRD staff, Ariana, Jacob, Molly, and Dylan, and my CA, Della Reginald, who kept me in line and just did amazing work for me, and all the agencies that I had the privilege to work with this session. And with that, Mr. Chair, I move that the Appropriations Committee approve the proposed budget of the Commerce Committee as acceptable for 2026 and 2027 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Second by Representative Estes. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, thank you, Chair Mosier. So we're going to move on to the next budget report outs, and that's actually by myself with the legislative budgets. And so first we're going to start with the legislature. I think we all know what the legislature does, so I'm not going to go into that description. But from so I'm going to try to go through these as briefly as I can. Obviously, the special committee on the state budget made a motion, actually made by myself, to delete any enhancements. So you'll see the enhancements that was made by the special committee on state budget. When we had the hearing in regards to the legislative budget, we did decide to add back the $3.2 million to restore the reappropriations fiscal year 2026. We added $127,000 approximately for a FD position for the legislative branch CETO position. And then we added $105,000 for the CISO position. We deleted $400,000 SGF because we did not have the special session that we were anticipating in November. And then we also deleted $100,000 for the K through 12 funding simulator, basically because that money was not needed. I'm not really going to go into what Senate Ways and Means is doing because I really don't know what they're doing. So that is fiscal year 2026. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to fiscal year 2027. As I mentioned before, any enhancements was deleted by my motion in the special committee on the state budget. And so when we had the deliberations on the House Budget Committee, we added, of course, back into 26 and 27. This is actually something that was discussed with the LCC, and we'll have their budget momentarily, with the CISO and the CETO position. There was also a 10% salary adjustment for legislative staff salaries. That was something that was also approved, and you're going to see this as being a common theme in all the other legislative budgets, because that was something that was actually directed by the LCC. So that is going to be in all of the 5 budgets that we're going to be looking at. We also talked about adding, as you're aware, we have the House bill that we had a hearing on, at $250,000 for 2 positions, one in the House and one in the Senate, one under the Speaker of the House and the other is under the President of the Senate, for the fiscal integrity auditors for fiscal year 2027. And then we deleted the $50,000 for the K through 12 funding simulator in fiscal year 2027. And as I mentioned in 2026, I'm not going to talk about what the Ways and Means did. So that is the budget for the legislature. Are there any questions? Representative Estes.
Can you remind me who's covered under those raises, please?
It'd be the permanent staff only. Permanent staff.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that covered the people who've been busting their backs and working so hard for us this year. Thank you.
And that's the reason why the LCC made the adjustment for the 10% pay increase. All right, Representative Bueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got an amendment and a little setup on the amendment. We had a hearing in Social Services Budget on January 15th about the Sexual Predator Treatment Program. That, for the committee's purposes, that program is civil confinement post Department of Corrections. There's about 280 people there that costs the state about, I think it's around $52 million a year. So this amendment is an oversight committee, so I'll read the amendment, and I'm not sure if Dylan or others has copies of it, but I can read what I have, or if Jill, I'm sorry.
No, there is no copy, sorry.
All right, so I'll try to be brief. During the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, in addition to the other purposes for which expenditures may be made by the above agency from monies appropriated from the State General Fund or from any special revenue fund or funds for fiscal year 27 as authorized by this or other appropriation act of the 2026 regular session of the legislature, expenditures shall be made by the above agency from such monies for fiscal year 2027 to create an interim study committee to review the sexually violent predator treatment program, provided that such review shall include but not be limited to reviewing, 1, the Kansas Sexually Violent Predator Act, that's KSA 59-290A01, and amendments thereto, 2, constitutional and statutory requirements of any individual who is a potential or actual subject of proceedings under the Act or for the control, care, and treatment of any individual in the custody of the Secretary for Aging and Disability Services under the Act. 3, program requirements, actions, and rules and regulations of the Kansas Department for Aging and Disability Services related to the care and treatment of such individuals. And 4, costs of the program. And 5, other state laws and programs concerning sexually violent predators. And I can give a little backstory on that if you need it, but it's essentially to create an interim committee to study what our sexually violent or sexual predator treatment program is, and are there other options that we should be pursuing as a state.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Carpenter. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been ongoing. It's just completely, during that interim study, Representative Bueller chaired, it costs us $215,000 a year for these folks. 20 states do it the same way we do. 30 states do it differently. and they have sentencing changes that address the issue. They have monitoring. They have all kinds of things. So we just want to take a look at this program. It's pretty consistent. 3 people die to get off of it, and 3 or 5 people come in. And so it just remains at that, and there's a better way of doing this, quite frankly. So that's what it's about. Thank you for bringing it, Representative.
All right, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Representative Bueller, you may close.
I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Any further discussion on the legislature's budget for 26 or 27? Representative Getz.
I saw that there was a couple deletions around just the K-12 budget. I mean, we have a big year next year of whatever conclusions the task force comes to. And kind of my mindset around next year when we are voting on a possible new funding formula is how are we going to be transparent about that process? Could there be a simulator that legislators and districts and agency can see what that is going to do that would add some technology, add some communication? So I would just like to make a motion to add back $150,000 for an RFP process for a funding formula simulator.
All right, you heard the motion. Is there a second?
In 27.
Second by Representative Turk. Representative Estes.
It's my understanding that the simulator does not require funding, and someone else can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's because I didn't handle this. But they receive donations, and we have it. We have access to it through donations, and I do not believe that we need money for it. But thank you for being passionate about it.
And thank you, Representative Estes. I was going to say, that's the reason why it was deleted is because there's funding available elsewhere. We do not need to have SGF for that. Representative Getz?
Thank you. I withdraw my motion.
All right. Motion is withdrawn. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, then I would move the budget for the legislature for fiscal year 26 and 27 as amended. Is there a second? Second by Representative Mosier. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Legislative Coordinating Council. So for fiscal year 2026, we went ahead as far as the House Budget Committee on Legislative Budget. We added back a partially lapse of the reappropriation for the CRM system of approximately $581,000. That's the only change that was made in fiscal year 2026 for the LCC. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move on to fiscal year 2027. And as I mentioned before, this is going to be an overwhelming theme for all of the legislative budgets. So we added in the House Budget Committee on Legislative Budget the $75,000 approximately for the 10% salary adjustment that was made by the LCC for all legislative budgets. And then we deleted $200,000 SGF for the reduced cost for the CRM system in fiscal year 2027. Those are the only adjustments. Are there any questions? Representative Estes.
Just so you're aware, we have 2 sets of the judicial branch and no set of the LCC.
Well, restate that.
In our papers, I have 2 sets of judicial, but I don't have one labeled LCC, so I think there might have been an error.
It all might be in one packet for the legislative budgets.
Thank you.
All right. Any other further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd go ahead and move the budget for the Legislative Coordinating Council fiscal year 2026 and 2027. Do I have a second? Second by Representative Getz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Next, we have the Legislative Division of Post Audit. So the House Committee on Legislative Budget, we added about almost $38,000 to partially lapse the agency's reappropriation in fiscal year 2026. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to 2027. The only thing that we added was what the LCC had already directed, which was the 10% salary adjustment for fiscal year 2027 of approximately $336,000. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and make a motion to move the budgets for fiscal year 2026 and 2027 for the Legislative Division of Post Audit. Is there a second? Second by Representative Getz. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, the next we have is the Kansas Legislative Research Department. So in fiscal year 2026, the House Budget Committee on Legislative Budget, we added almost $115,000 for a partial lapse of the agency, which makes the reappropriation total of $150,000 even in fiscal year 2026. On 2027, we added, as I mentioned before, the 10% salary adjustment, about $472,000 for fiscal year 2027. Those are the only changes that were made. Are there any questions? Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not a question. I just want to thank these people because they earn every penny that we give them.
I would echo your statement. They need more. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and move the budget for fiscal year 2026 and 2027 for the Kansas Legislative Research Department. Is there a second? Second by Representative Mosier. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then we have next, and I think the last one I have, is the Office of the Reviser of Statutes. And so for the House budget on legislative budget, we concurred with the Special Committee's recommendation for fiscal year 2026. And then in regards to 2027, the only thing that we had added was, as I mentioned before, the LLC directive of a $405,000 for the 10% salary adjustment in 2027. Are there any questions in regards to the budget for the Office of Reviser of Statutes? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move the budget for the Office of the Reviser of Statutes for fiscal year 2026 and 2027. Is there a second? Second by Representative Amix. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move to Chair Wassinger from the General Government Budget, and I believe you're going to be starting with the Judicial Council. Chair Wassinger.
Yes, I am. Hold on here. In the wrong place. Do I have this? I don't know if you put it in the wrong way, but I don't know if I have the,
Do you need a budget summary or?
yeah, I need the, that's the only one I didn't get, I guess.
Here's mine, Judicial Council Budget Summary.
I have
the
this.
Budget Committee, you need the
I
Budget
just the
Committee
committee report here. You have that one. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry for the delay. The agency requests a revised estimate of $742,842, which is unchanged from the approved amount without reappropriations. Although the agency carried over $28,164 in SGF and unspent funds from 25 to 26, the agency reviewed its funding needs and lapsed the full amount of reappropriation from FY 25. Although the agency's revised estimate is otherwise unchanged, the estimate includes changes within individual categories of expenditure that would not increase the appropriation amount in 26. The special committee concurred with the agency's revised estimates in 26. The House Committee on General Government Budget did as well, and as did the Senate committees. Are there any questions?
Committee, any questions in regards to fiscal year 2026? All right, seeing none, move on to 2027, Chair Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency requests $747,485 in expenditures of 2027. This is an increase of $4,643 or 0.6% above the approved 25 legislature. Once again, they're budgeting less for the pay of regular unclassified employees due to the retirement of the executive director. However, it's offset by an increase in the pay of temporary unclassified employees due to the agency budgeting per diem and subsistence for committee members. The reduction of pay for regular employees is further offset by increases in contractual services expenditures due to an online payment portal for the sale of publications, as well as the agency's plan to distribute 4 publications this year rather than 3 in 2027. The Special Committee on State Budget concurred with the agency request, and the House Committee on General Government Budget did as well. One of the reasons they went from 3 publications to 4, they had a little show and tell and carried in basically a suitcase, one of the publications that they did, and it was, you can't carry it by yourself, and so it's kind of tough to do that. So they decided to split it into 4 to make it a little bit more manageable for people to get. And with that, Mr. Chair, I ask for questions.
You ask for questions?
Yeah, I asked, are there any questions? Are there any questions?
Are there any
If you want to
questions?
ask me any questions, feel free.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions, Chair Wassinger, so I'd entertain a motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass the Judicial Council budget for the years 2026 and 2027 as presented.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Estes. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Chair Wassinger, the judicial branch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, God. Golly, Moses. Thank you. For FY 2026, they requested a revised estimate of $240.2 million, including $230.2 million SGF in expenditures and 2,038.5 FTE positions for 26. This is the same amount as previously approved by the 25 legislature, but the revised estimate increases 3.5 FTEs above the number of positions. It doesn't, although their revised estimate doesn't change, there are several adjustments in expenditures. They reduce contractual expenditures for the Office of Judicial Administration in order to create one interactive learning center within the Supreme Court Law Library of 26. The Special Committee on the State Budget deleted the 5,320 SGF to not reappropriate unspent from the expenditures in 25. They deleted 39,930 from the Elder Justice Innovation Grant and 1.5 positions and 3.3 FTEs associated with specialty court operations. The House Committee on General Government Budget concurred with a special committee. They deleted $325 in SGF not to fund the creation of one interactive learning center exhibit within the Supreme Court and add 2 positions associated with the specialty court operations. The Senate committees deleted the $325 and added the 3 positions. With that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, committee, are there any questions in regards to fiscal year 2026? Seeing none, we move on to 2027.
All right. The agency requests $246.1 million, including $236.2 million in SGF expenditures and 2,043 FTEs positions for 27. This is an increase of $5.9 million or 2.5% above, and an increase of 8.5 FTE what was previously approved by the 25 legislature. Again, they want the learning center for $300,000, specialty courts $1 million with 3 FTEs. They wanted the court services juvenile coordinator, rural justice initiative, non-judge salary increase, but $3.5 million, and hospitality language that they needed to change for the non-judicial staff at training events. Absent the request for all their enhancements, it includes an all funds increase of $646,284 in expenditures and 3 FTEs. The Special Committee on State Budget concurs with the agency's request for 2027 with the following adjustments. They deleted, I think, everything. And then the House Committee on general government budget, added 1 million from the Specialty Court Resources Fund and transfer the 1 million SGF to the Specialty Court Resources Fund to partially adopt the agency's request for their specialty court operations in FY27. They added 2 FTE for the regional specialty court coordinator positions for 27. We added language to provide that monies transferred in the Specialty Court Resources Fund may be expended on an additional 2 FTEs for 27 and transferred to Specialty Court Resources Fund. Added 103,296 in SGF in one position to adopt the agency's request to create and fill a court services juvenile coordinator for 27. Added 200,000 for the administration of expungement clinics provided by Kansas Legal Services. And the House Committee on General Government Budget requests that the full House Committee on Appropriations include non-judge employees in the judicial branch when considering global salary adjustments for 27. I have 2 enhancements, not 2 enhancements, I have 2 provisos to clarify some of the things that we did, not necessarily add more issues. We did want to add, I move that we add 200K for the expungement clinics that is appropriated for the above agency from SGF for the fiscal year 27, including the following: judiciary operations, 231,875 and 589. That seems like an awful lot. That will add, that's added with the 200. The expenditures in the amount of not to exceed 200,000 shall be made from the judiciary operations account for the administration of expungement clinics in partnership with Kansas Legal Services.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Hoy. So discussion, I guess my first thing is, you're adding another 200,000, or is that the 200,000 that's already added in item number 5?
I think we had to be more specific in what we did and tell them where they had to take it from.
Okay.
So that's why we had to do the proviso.
Okay, so you're just adding language pretty much.
Right.
All right. All right, any other further discussion in regards to the motion? Seeing none, Representative Wassinger, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. All right, Chair Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that specialty court resources funds that have no limit, provided that during the fiscal year of 27, notwithstanding Kansas statutes and amendments, in addition to existing full-time positions within the judicial branch, expenditures shall be made by the above agency for monies transferred to the Specialty Court Resources Fund pursuant to subsection C for additional positions for amount not to exceed 2 full-time positions. Provided, however, that monies transferred to the Specialty Court Resources not be transferred to another item of appropriation for the judicial branch for the fiscal year ending in 27, and that honor before the agency will provide a report to the House of Representatives, General Government Budget Committee, all of the expenditures attributable to the monies transferred pursuant to subsection C. On July 1st, 2026, or as soon thereafter as monies are available, the Director of Accounts and Report shall transfer $1,045,000 from the State General Fund to the Specialty Court Resources Funds of the Judicial Branch.
All right, committee, for the motion, is there a second? Second by Representative Getz. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, Chair Wassinger, you may close.
Mr. Chair, I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? That was pretty light, guys. Motion passes.
They're getting tired.
All right, any other discussion in regards to fiscal year 2027 for the judicial branch? All right, seeing none. Oh, Representative Estes.
When was the last time that we gave the non-judge employees a raise? Because I think and how much was it? Because I recall something very significant coming out of COVID.
I believe that they received a raise last year.
There were
merit pool raise,
salary,
yeah.
pardon me, thank you, Mr. Chair. There were salary adjustments last year. Do you know how much?
When I read your number 6, I'm not clear if you're advocating for or against another raise.
Chair Wassinger?
We did not approve the raise for them for 27.
And actually, there was a global motion in the Special Committee on Budget that we're going to take all pay increases out, and we're going to do that, what we've done in the last few years as far as the legislature dictating how much we're going to be doing in pay increases.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Any further discussion on the judicial branch? All right, Chair Wassinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a 2.5% increase last year.
All right, no further discussion. I would entertain a motion, Chair Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to the approval of the judicial branch budgets of 2026 and 2027 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion, seconded by Representative Amix. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, Chair Wassinger, the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay. Let's make sure I didn't lose this. All right, for 2026, the agency submitted a revised estimate of $90.5 million on on-budget expenditures, including $22.2 million of SGF and 204.2 FTEs in 26. This is an increase of $26.1 million or 40.6% and 1 FTE above the amount previously approved, including reappropriations by the 2025 legislature. The revised estimate included the following SGF reappropriations: $10 million for safe and secure firearm detection program, $102,777 SGF for the Office of Inspector General, and $45,702 for litigation travel. The increased expenditures are pretty much attributable to higher pass-through distributions of opioid settlement funds administered by the Attorney General. Other changes in the revised estimate: there was a salary and wages decrease of $774,839, primarily in the criminal division due to funding reductions for vacant unclassified positions. Capital outlay decreased by almost $300,000, largely in victim services and administration divisions. It was driven by a reclassification of victim information notification every day, which is called the VINE system. Contractual services increased by almost $800,000, driven by higher database access and VINE system costs within the victim services. They also had increases in administration and which were offset by the Solicitor's Office of Civil Division, and funding changes, increases from court cost funds and special revenue funds, with a significant decrease in the tort claims and antitrust special revenue funds. And there was a 1 FTE staffing increase in administration, criminal, and public divisions. The Special Committee on State Budget deleted the 1 FTE. They deleted 10 million SGF appropriations for safe and secure firearm detection. They deleted 102,770,000 from SGF reappropriations for the Office of Inspector General, and they deleted 45,702 SGF reappropriations for litigation travel. The House Committee on General Government Budget added concurred with Special Committee, but we added 1 FTE in 2026. We added 1 million reappropriation, 10 million for the reappropriation of safe and secure firearm detection program, added the 102,777 SGF for the Inspector General, and added the 45,702 SGF reappropriations for litigation travel. With that, I will stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions for fiscal year 2026? Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if we have any further updates on whether a vendor has been selected on the safe and secure firearm AI program and if there's been any applications from school districts.
Chair Wassinger.
But they did mention that they had lots of schools asking for some of the money to do that, but not as many as they hoped, and they're trying to work on that as well.
Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So they don't have a vendor, is that what you're saying?
Chair Wassinger.
They do have a vendor. They already have a vendor. Do you know who it is? Oh, Zero Eyes. Yes.
Okay. And this is just a comment. I hope they'll come back and give us a report on how it went, but this is an example of why our amendment yesterday is so necessary. I'm now looking at this $10 million up front, and it really should be 50% and see how what progress has occurred. And so I'm just thinking, why didn't we do that instead of giving everything up front? And then if the deliverable is not there that we want, it's really hard to claw back.
Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of skipped ahead and I read into 27, and I was comparing the differences on the Senate side and the House side regarding 26. And I noticed that the 9 positions and funding therefore regarding our HB 2217 from last year, or 2 years ago, I think, were included in 27 on the House side, but not in 26. And on the Senate side, it was included in 26. So I was just wondering if there was any discussion as to the ability to fill those positions or what the conversation was around that.
Once again, the Senate committees met after we finished our budget hearings, so we had no idea what they were going to do.
Oh, okay.
So I can go and ask them.
Was there discussion on the House side regarding those positions that we created but didn't fund 2 years ago?
Chair Wassinger.
I believe they still hadn't been filled, but we're addressing it in 27 is what I want to say.
Yeah, we can't pay them. Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions on 2026? Seeing none, Chair Wassinger, go on to 2027.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency requests $73.4 million in on-budget expenditures, including $11.7 million in SGF and 204.2 FTEs for 2027. This is an increase of $19.6 million or 36.3% and 1 FTE above the previously approved. They also decreased salaries by $660,361, primarily in the criminal division due to vacant unclassified positions. Capital outlay decreased by $282,150, largely in the Vine system. It was mainly driven by a reclassification in software expenditures from capital outlay to contractual services. So you'll see that contractual services increased by $620,450, mainly due by higher database access and Vine system costs and victim services. Also, there were increases with administration, public protection, and several other divisions. There's a 1 FTE increase. The Special Committee on State Budget concurred with the agency request and deleted the 1 FTE. The House Committee added a few things, and I would like to say we're trying to be penny wise, so we're not pound foolish, okay? We added the FTE. We added $3.0 million in SGF one time to establish the Hearing Protection for Law Enforcement Program, which includes $960,000 SGF for custom active hearing aid protection for KBI investigative officers in Kansas Highway Patrol, and $2.1 million in SGF for standard hearing active hearing protection for local law enforcement. The equipment shall be procured by the Attorney General's office and distributed to local agencies on a first-come, first-served basis. And I do have a proviso to make sure we get the correct language in there for that.
All right, thank you. Chair Wassinger, you want to go ahead and make your motion?
Go ahead and do that. Okay. the proviso that we did added the same amount for the hearing protection for the law enforcement, but when we made the motion in committee, we believed that all of these custom hearing products were made in the United States. We were since learned that none of them are made in the United States. So the proviso takes out only getting request for proposal and not adding made in the USA, because none of them are. None of those custom hearing aids are. Hearing protections.
Committee, you've heard the motion, seconded by Representative Turk. Discussion on the motion, Representative Turk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to be perfectly clear, the custom ones are made in the United States. It's the mass-produced
Non-custom, I'm
ones
sorry,
that
the
are-
non-custom.
And those are made, I believe, just south of us.
Any further discussion on the motion? I don't think it's Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't think it's Oklahoma.
A little further south.
All right, seeing no further discussion, Chair Wassinger, you may close on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Further discussion in regards to fiscal year 2027 for the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay,
Representative Hoy.
Well, we will, thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll move on to number 3. We added 1.1 million in SGF and 9 positions for the FY27 to expand the Office of Inspector General pursuant to 2025 HB 2217, which shifts from Medicaid only to statewide oversight of healthcare and welfare programs, including audits and investigations. We added 78,000 SGF in 1 position for an investigator position in 27 to investigate consumer complaints, collect evidence, and support enforcement actions under the Kansas Consumer Protection Act related to solicitation notice violations created by 2025 HB 2118. We added 201,125 and 2.5 positions in FY27 to implement the Kansas Land and Military Installation Protection Act, which is 25, a House sub for SB 9, including responsibilities to oversee foreign principal real estate registration, investigate potential violations, and support enforcement actions, and coordinate on reporting of foreign land holdings and drone procurement compliance. We added 253,431 SGF and 1 FTE for 27 to implement 2025 HB 2291, which established the General Regulatory Sandbox Program with the Office of the Attorney General. This allows businesses to seek temporary relief from certain state laws and rules and regulations, while the office reviews applications and provides recommendations on regulatory reforms to reduce barriers to business growth. And we added 41,786 SGF and 0.5 FTE for 27 to position to review the local law enforcement's investigative reports and actions taken pertaining to the violations of the Scrap Metal Theft Reduction Act pursuant to 2025 SB 237. The Senate did some other things, and if I'll stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions in regards to fiscal year 2027? Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oops, I left my mic on. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the addition of 16 and a half FTE. Like, what was the discussion on that from the committee?
Chair Wassinger.
Legislation that was passed fiscal year 2025, and they were just adding the funding and FTEs to.
Yeah, that was all, those were all FTEs added by legislation 25, all those different House bills, and we'd never funded them, so, or added positions to them. So that's what we're doing in 2027.
Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think that absent an omnibus package, that I want to be transparent with Kansans that this is where we're addressing those fiscal notes in addition to adding to our budget and adding these FTE. When we passed the regulatory sandbox bill, I did mention that in my explanation of vote, that we're growing government, we're adding FTE, we're adding things to the budget that weren't currently there. So this is where it's happening, and I don't know if we're tracking that amount of expenditures that's been added to the budget, but I do appreciate that information and explanation about these 16.5 FTE. Thank you.
And we are tracking that. Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As an aside, first off, I want to say Scrap Metal Theft Reduction Act, the gift that just keeps on giving.
That's right.
I've argued about that since I got here, I think. Anyway, I do have a proviso. I think we did a great thing in the past, but we did it in a state government sort of way. When we created the Office of the Inspector General to look for waste, fraud, inefficiencies, this sort of thing within our social services programs. And then we expanded it. And that was great. The intention was there. That was all fantastic. I'm happy to see that we're finally funding it. That's kind of a nice thing. But anyone who serves on the Bethel Committee or who dials in and listens to the Bethel Committee knows that there is, just in that one program, serious flaws resulting in overpayment by the state. I mean, oftentimes multiple payments. And this is something this is a big ship to have 9 people investigating. And so I have a proviso that might help things out just a little bit. I think now that we are going to staff them, let's also give them the tools necessary to do the job more effectively. And so there's a appropriation for the Office of the Inspector General well, actually it's for the Attorney General's office, because that's where the money flows through. From the State General Fund for the fiscal year of 27 of $830,000. For the Public Assistance Program Integrity Audit and Procurement Support. What this will do is and the number is I'm hoping accurate. I have not listed any company with this because I'm not in favor of handing out, no bid contracts or anything along those lines. But what we're looking for is an AI platform that will go through the expenditures by our agencies, particularly in social services currently, to identify multiple payments, ineligible recipients, people who live out of state, for example. That's one that we've actually run into, not kidding. So anyway, the expenditures shall be made by the above agency from the account during fiscal year 27 to develop and issue a request for proposal and select a provider for process intelligence software and services to support the Inspector General in reducing payment errors, identifying waste, fraud, and abuse, and process breakdowns and conducting whole population audits across all public assistance programs within the Inspector General's investigative and audit jurisdiction under, even have the law here, 75-7427, and amendments there too. Now, in order to make the vice chair giddy, I think, I've further included that the Inspector General shall require, as part of such proposal, that the selected provider submit written findings, measurable cost savings estimates, and recommendations for statutory, administrative, or budgetary action, so that we can then immediately assess whether or not to continue this procurement or this appropriation in future years.
All right, committee for the motion, is there a second? Second by Representative Turk. Discussion, Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I applaud the representative for transparency, fraud, waste, and abuse. I think that nobody should be afraid of investigations or anything like that, to make sure that we do have are spending the money, the people's money wisely. So I do appreciate that. But one of my questions is, how did you arrive at the $830,000?
Representative Sutton.
That one, I'm hoping it's pretty accurate. I sought out a company that provides this services and found out what it would cost to set up. I'm hoping that in a competitive market, whatever company we choose is going to be somewhere in that ballpark so that the funding should be able to cover that.
Representative Carpenter.
That's pretty subjective.
It absolutely is. I know that that is a question mark, but that's the amount that at least that company could do it for. So I'm hoping, like I said, it is a hope that other companies would come in somewhere in that area so that this appropriation would be enough to get this ball rolling.
I wonder if there's any way we could tighten, oh, sorry.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, is there any way we can tighten that up? You know, I'm not, totally not against what you're trying to do, and I applaud any time we have to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, but I think that's kind of subjective. So,
Representative Sutton.
That's all. Thank you, and I agree. I struggled with this one myself, and the only way in my mind that I came up with a way to tighten it up and make sure that it was accurate was to identify a company. And I'm not in favor of going into something, I'm not in favor of no bid contracts. And so I couldn't do it that way. That was the other option in my mind. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So definitely like the idea, of course, AI saving time, but my question is, would that then potentially reduce the number of FTEs we need? So could we offset the increases in the FTEs? I mean, obviously not in totality, but just even a few FTEs, because I'm wondering if this will be a time saver.
Representative Sutton.
I truly imagine it will be a time saver. My thought on that, though, is that when we're talking about social services budgets and expenditures throughout the state, 9 people is nowhere close to what's necessary without AI. I strongly suspect that those folks are going to be pretty busy, even with extra assistance.
Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think that just answered my question. I mean, we have there were several bills that we passed last year that require the Attorney General to do things, and I don't think we funded all those positions that they requested before. And I would be reluctant to remove more until after we get the results back of if the software is able to be purchased and if we can run it and if they can find things. So I would say that shouldn't try to offset it at this point. We could come back after the results and see if we could offset it then.
Chair Walsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's exactly what I was going to say. They have gotten a lot of savings from what they could do by themselves without computer help in that sense. This program, doing a program like this will help save a lot of money in fraud, a lot of money in mistakes, a lot of money in what's going on. So we're hoping that I have no problem with them giving us a report after the first year that they've done it, but I think it's going to pay for itself in a short time.
Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through my conversations on this, I've learned Oklahoma did something similar to audit their COVID spending, and they found over $40 million in savings. And so I definitely support the motion. We take it a year at a time and see what we can do.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Representative Sutton, you may close.
I close on my motion.
All right, when you've heard the motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. We're back on the budget for fiscal year 2027. Any further discussion on fiscal year 2027? Seeing none, Chair Wassinger, I'd entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve the Office of the Attorney General's budget for 2026 and 2027 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion, second by Representative Turk. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. All right, so Chair Wassinger, we're going to move the Office of the Secretary of State until tomorrow because you'll be reporting out again tomorrow. So with that, committee, we are adjourned.